The dinner. The soft, amber glow of the chandeliers bathed the small, empty dining room in a warm, intimate light. The fragrance of a perfectly cooked steak wafted through the air, tempting the senses. At a corner table, nestled under a cozy alcove, sat John, a distinguished 50-year-old man with salt and pepper hair, and his radiant 28-year-old wife, Sarah. The restaurant, one of John's many establishments in town, was a hidden gem that hadn't officially opened to the public yet. John, a man of quiet elegance, sliced through the juicy steak with precision. His eyes rarely left Sarah, who sat across from him, savoring each bite. The couple shared an undeniable chemistry, a bond that transcended age and brought them together against all odds. Sarah placed her fork down, a delighted smile playing on her lips. "John, this steak is incredible. You've truly outdone yourself." He chuckled modestly, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I'm glad you like it, my love. I've been perfecting this recipe just for you." As the night wore on, they continued to dine, sharing stories and laughter over glasses of exquisite wine. John couldn't help but admire his young wife. Her beauty was a testament to the love and happiness they had found together. "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever known," John said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Blushing, Sarah replied, "And you, my dear husband, are the most handsome man I've ever met. I'm so lucky to have you." Their conversation turned to the restaurant, its grand opening imminent. They discussed their dreams and plans, the vision they shared for this new venture. John's confidence in their success was unwavering, and Sarah's unwavering support fueled his ambition. Then, John's demeanor shifted. He reached under the table and pulled out a small, elegantly wrapped box. Sarah's eyes widened with excitement. "For you, my love," he said, his voice tinged with mystery. Sarah accepted the box with a delighted grin. She carefully untied the silk ribbon and opened it, her heart racing with anticipation. Inside, she found a collection of photographs. At first, she thought they might be treasured memories from their time together, but as her eyes scanned the images, her joy turned into shock and disbelief. The photos depicted her and another man, a face she recognized but couldn't place immediately, in intimate and compromising situations. Her breath caught in her throat, and her hands began to tremble. John watched her reaction with cold detachment, his eyes unyielding. "Surprised, my dear?" Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she stammered, "John, I swear, I can explain. I don't know how these photos came to be, but they mean nothing. You have to believe me." The room seemed to close in on her, the walls suffocatingly close. Panic set in as she tried to articulate the words that would save her marriage, her life as she knew it. John's expression remained stoic, his heart seemingly encased in ice. "Explain?" "There's nothing to explain, Sarah. These pictures speak for themselves. Our love, our marriage, it's all a lie." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she continued to plead. "I love you, John. He meant nothing to me, and you are everything. You have to believe me." Her words fell on deaf ears. John had made up his mind. The betrayal he felt cut deeper than any steak knife ever could. His trust had been shattered, and he had no intention of trying to piece it back together. "I don't want to hear it," John said, his voice cold and final. Sarah's world crumbled around her. The love and happiness that had filled their relationship had evaporated in an instant. She had lost the man she loved, her dreams of a happy future, and the life they had built together. As the empty dining room bore witness to their shattered love, the chandelier's once warm glow now seemed cold and unforgiving. The night that had begun with promise had ended in heartbreak. Sarah's sobs grew louder, her tears flowing freely as she struggled to comprehend the devastating turn of events. She couldn't believe how quickly her world had unraveled, leaving her feeling lost and alone. Across the table, John continued to eat his steak and sip his wine with an air of detached composure. His disappointment was palpable, his eyes fixed on the meal in front of him, seemingly unbothered by Sarah's anguish. Finally, he spoke, his voice dripping with disappointment. "Sarah, I can't express how deeply you've hurt me. After everything I've done for you, after all the love and support I've given, you betray me like this?" Sarah, her voice trembling, tried to explain once more. "John, please let me explain. It's not what you think. I never meant for any of this to happen. Roy. But John cut her off with a sharp, dismissive gesture, his face hardening with each passing moment. "Enough, Sarah. I don't want to hear your excuses. You've shattered my trust, broken my heart, and tarnished everything we had." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she watched the man she loved push her away. She knew there was no turning back, no way to undo the damage that had been done. John's voice turned colder as he continued to eat his meal, as if the revelation hadn't affected him at all. "I trusted Roy like a son, Sarah. I thought he was loyal, just like you. But it seems I was wrong about both of you." Desperation welled up inside her as she tried one last time to reach him. "John, please, just hear me out. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I love you more than anything in this world." But John remained unmoved, his gaze fixed on his plate. "It's too late for that, Sarah. There's no going back. You've made your choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." Sarah's voice grew quiet, and she lowered her head in defeat, her sobs the only sound in the cold, unforgiving silence that had settled between them. As John continued to eat his steak, seemingly unfazed by the emotional turmoil at the table, he began to recount a story from his days in the military. Sarah, still sobbing and confused, looked up at him, her tear-filled eyes reflecting her bewilderment. John's voice grew distant as he delved into his past, a past he had never shared with anyone until this moment. "You see, Sarah," he began, "there was a time in my life when betrayal cut even deeper than it does now." He recounted the harrowing tale of a jungle ambush during his military service. Their guide had led them into a deadly trap, and John and his men had been mercilessly cut down within seconds, unable to defend themselves. He described the pain he felt as excruciating, akin to hell itself. "I woke up," John continued, groggy and in agony, "but I wasn't in enemy hands. I was in a remote village, surrounded by natives who rarely interacted with outsiders." Sarah listened intently, her confusion giving way to a mix of emotions. John, carving another bite of his steak, revealed the hidden truth. "What I never told anyone, Sarah, they were cannibals." He paused, his eyes locked onto hers, his expression chilling. "Yes, I tasted the flesh of men and I liked it, especially the one who had betrayed my men." Sarah's eyes widened in horror as the weight of his confession settled upon her. The tears in her eyes seemed inconsequential compared to the darkness of the revelation. She couldn't comprehend the depth of what he had just disclosed. John, seemingly unmoved, continued to eat his steak, his voice devoid of emotion as he said, "He tasted just like Roy does." The room felt colder, the chandelier's glow now a stark contrast to the eerie revelation. Realizing the gravity of John's words, Sarah's face contorted with horror. Her voice trembled as she asked, "John, what have you done to Roy?" John, his demeanor still unsettlingly calm, nonchalantly pointed his fork towards the kitchen door. It was a chilling gesture, and Sarah's heart raced as she feared the worst. Without another word, Sarah erupted from her chair and sprinted towards the kitchen. Desperation and disbelief mingled in her thoughts. She desperately hoped that this was some sick joke on John's part, a twisted way to get back at her for the turmoil that had unfolded. But as she pushed open the kitchen door and stepped inside, the terrible truth became undeniable. Her gasp caught in her throat as she saw Roy's lifeless body laid out on the counter next to the stove. His eyes were vacant, and parts of his body had been sliced off. The room was tainted with an eerie silence, broken only by the pounding of her heart. Sarah's world crumbled even further as she stood frozen, her eyes locked onto the horrifying sight before her. Then, her body betrayed her, the shock and horror overwhelming her senses. Uncontrollable convulsions racked her frame as she doubled over, vomiting repeatedly until the kitchen floor was covered in her retchings. She collapsed onto the grimy floor, tears streaming down her face as she sobbed uncontrollably. Her screams echoed through the kitchen, a symphony of anguish and despair. Outside the kitchen, at the table where John sat, he remained unfazed by the gut-wrenching scene playing out just beyond the door. His appetite seemed insatiable as he continued to enjoy his meal, savoring each bite with a sinister satisfaction. His face twisted into an evil smile as he commented, "What a delicious steak this is."